Well, Travis, what you also need to know about Tamar is that she doesn't anymore because she works a program. But she used to have a yard gnome stealing problem.
Oh
Actually,
my
any
gosh.
yard statue,
Lawn ornaments.
lawn
in general.
ornaments. Thank you. I was looking for the word. Yeah.
I
Yes.
have a brief story about that. So in high school, there was this girl, and for whatever reason, I thought I would impress her by taking a bunch of lawn gnomes from the neighborhood, and we arranged them around her house, me and my best friend. So when they woke up, there was a lawn gnome looking in the house in every window. Now, the neighbors weren't impressed. I think most of them got their gnomes back eventually, but I don't really think I went over that well in terms of winning points with the girl, but you know.
I think it's clever. I give you points for cleverness.
Well, thank you.
I do.
I appreciate that. I'll take it. Very
Nobody
cool.
ever did that for me.
I can't imagine
I
why.
didn't get that. I didn't get a John Cusack boombox, held above the head.
Oh.
Ugh, classic. Welcome to the Sober Curator podcast, where sobriety isn't just a lifestyle choice, it's the ultimate life hack. I'm Alysse Bryson, your fearless guide to a world where hangovers are canceled, fun is mandatory, and we still know how to shut down a dance floor, just with better shoes.
And I'm Tamar Routley, aka T-Bouge, your co-pilot, chaos coordinator, and the one who keeps Alysse from turning this podcast into a full-blown reality show. Buckle up, sober party people.
From lifestyle and travel to pop culture and zero-proof cocktails, we're serving up the stories, trends, and guests that prove sobriety isn't just about what you're missing. It's about finally remembering where you left your keys. Let's get the party started. Welcome back to the Sober Curator podcast, where sober meets pop culture and recovery gets as real as it gets. I'm your host, Alysse Bryson, bringing you weekly doses of inspiration, humor, and community as we explore what it means to live in an alcohol-free life with flair. Today's guest is one part advocate, one part author, and all around a badass when it comes to busting stigma and building up voices that need to be heard. He's here to remind us that even when life knocks you way off the course, you can write your own ending and maybe even publish it. Travis, welcome to the show.
Thank you both for having me. That's probably the coolest intro I've ever had, so I greatly appreciate that. I'm just amped now. Let's do it.
Do you want us to send you the clips so you can listen to it every morning and just get pumped up?
Dude, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, positive affirmation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm here for it. So when I was reading it, though, because we do have a little bit of a script, when I was reading The Life Knocks You Down, so what my theme song in my life, if I had to only pick one, would be by Chumbawamba. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You ain't never going to keep me down. So now I'm curious, if you could only have one theme song for your life, Travis, what would it be?
You are
I know,
gonna
on
put
the
me
spot. We're going
dang,
straight
girl.
in. Yeah, we're
See,
going
now
straight
all
in.
I can think of is Tub Thumper. Now
I
it's
get
just,
that down.
yeah, that's in my head. I would have to say probably it's got to be something by Dave Matthews.
Okay.
Maybe
Go Seattle.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe number 41 by Dave.
Okay.
Just I kind of think of that as an anthem, not really for my life, but just anything Dave I like to listen to, kind of chill, change my mindset, switch gears, and then I'll throw in some Tupac, some Hail Mary. Yeah,
I'm here for it.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I really kind of hit all genres of music except for country. I don't do a lot of country, so.
Oh, thank you, Travis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's enough of that. So.
Oh, it's awful. I have a theme song as well. If you guys want to hear it, if you're up to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. She's Canadian, so it could be something we've never heard of because she's in another country. Go ahead.
It might be. It's All Coming Back to Me Now by Celine Dion.
Okay. All right. I mean,
that's a blackout drinker, so she thinks that's funny.
Now I see the connection. Okay. I was trying to.
He
I'm
was like, I don't know. Okay.
He's like, she's Canadian. That makes
Yup.
sense now. That tracks. Yep.
Yep. And aside from that, yeah.
I have a
Go
Dave
for it.
Matthews story. Do you want to hear it?
I would love it. Yeah.
Okay.
What is it?
So my dad's really good friend. I don't know if they're besties. I don't know if boomers call each other besties, but my dad's a really good friend. Used to have a house in the Seattle area, and he happened to live right next door to Dave Matthews. Like they literally shared a fence. And so when Dave would hang out in his backyard, just strumming away on his guitar, he could go out on his backyard patio and like get his own private concert. Super cool, right? So this is way back. I was newly sober. I was working at the Seattle Times, and I had made a friend there who was also sober. And so we had become thick as thieves. And I've actually never met anyone obsessed with a musician or a celebrity to the degree of which she was obsessed. And I'm not going to out her. I'm not going to say her name, but if she's listening, you know this is you. And so she was obsessed with him, and somehow it had come up, because I'm a little bit of a name dropper apparently. Somehow it had come up that my dad's friend lived next door to him. So ergo, I knew his address, right?
Yeah.
So she came running over to my cubicle one day, and she was like, guess what? And I was like, what? Thinking like she just made a sale, or I don't know, something cool happened. She was like, Dave's in town, because I know the concert schedule and he's not on tour right now. So he's in town, and because he's doing this thing, and you know the address, let's go drive by. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm definitely not doing that. But I had already kind of given her the directions. So like I couldn't stop her from going. But I was like, no, I'm not going. See you later. Have a good day. And I don't know. I didn't really believe she was going to go. I don't know what I thought. I just didn't really think about it. And I moved on with my day. Well, she comes back later that day. She had gone and just kept circling the block until he actually came out and stopped her car and was like, may I help you? At where she promptly burst into tears and leaned out of her car. She was still driving, and begged for a selfie. He agreed. Okay. She took a selfie. She had gone to Walgreens. She had it printed and framed, and it was on her desk that afternoon.
Wow. Yeah. See, I thought you were going to tell me this ended in some arrest or some kind of police intervention.
Nope. Just a framed picture of a selfie from the stocking.
That's dedication. Yeah. She should have gone back and got it signed, though.
She should have. She should have. Maybe
that's
she
the
did.
only misstep in that story. But that's so cool. Wow. And he took one with her, even though she could have been any random. Yeah.
She could have. Yeah. Yeah, she could have. But, know.
Very cool.
Yeah. He was cool about it. He was totally cool about it.
Kind of seemed a little stalkerish.
Little stalkerish.
So good for him. Good for him, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Well, Travis, we're here today to talk about your book, Life with Karma, or My Life with Karma is the actual title. And you've been sober since 2013. You're a public speaker. Apparently I'm not. You're a public speaker, a harm reduction specialist at the Kaya Clinic. And did I say that right?
Kaya.
Kaya?
So,
Kaya?
Yeah.
Kaya Clinic?
Real cool thing about Kaya. So it's come as you are. So Kaya. So if you think like Nirvana, kind of, it's just got a super chill vibe. I've only been there a couple of weeks, but I absolutely love it so far. So I wanted to give them a shout out. Yeah. I know they're going to listen. And so Kaya, come as you are clinic, and just come see me.
So you're just speaking to my Seattle roots today, Travis, because
right?
I'm a Nirvana girl. We actually produced a concert last night here in Seattle that the Sober Curator was a sponsor of. And Sir Mix-a-Lot actually performed a Nirvana song, that was the mashup I didn't know I needed. I'll send you the video when we finish the episode. So you can see all about it. Yeah, it was pretty cool. But that's awesome. I never thought of that as an acronym, but now I will definitely not forget it. You're also a dad. You've been up since wee hours this morning.
That's very true. Yeah.
So you got that going on for you.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of things going on for you in your life of recovery since the year of 2013.
I do. Yeah. And all good things though. Which is, I think that's one of the gifts, obviously, right off the bat, recovery gives us is the ability to be present for these things in our lives. And like that's one of the coolest things that I enjoy the most, because I remember what I do now and I'm able to actually be an active participant. And it's sweet. So as busy as I get, I think now I appreciate it all that much more, as opposed to being like, what did I just do the last 8,
Uh-huh.
12, 24
Uh-huh.
hours?
Being at the concert last night, I did see a group of people that were highly, highly intoxicated. No judgment. Back in the day, that would have totally been me. But all I could think of was like, oh man, you are missing out on one of the most epic concerts tonight, with like icons up on the stage, like in a way that you may never see again. And you're going to have probably no memory of this. Maybe you captured some stuff on your phone that you'll watch the next day, but I'm just so glad that that isn't my life anymore. And so, what I would love to know, and Tamar always loves to ask this question, is not so much, we don't really want to hear about your how you got sober story. If people want to know, parts about that, they should definitely read your book. But what part in your sobriety was a pivotal moment where you were like, I want to write a book. I want to share my story. I want to get into advocacy. Like, tell us about what that looked like.
Okay, so I would say that really started after I got off of felony probation. And the biggest reason why was when I went through all the shit I went through with the court stuff, and basically just really had my life put on display, I never got to tell my side of the story. It was always my attorney advising me, okay, do not say anything, let me do the speaking. And I felt like the media just took it, ran with it, and that became what everyone knew of me. I didn't like that. It felt gross, it felt icky, it felt very contrived. So what I wanted to do was first kind of change how I was perceived. And then I thought, once I did that, I want to change the way all addicts are perceived. I want to start smashing some of the stigma, and that really led to more speaking opportunities. So what started with my story in the book really transformed into what could be anyone's story, and how I just was able to relate to others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I was reading your book, and you've probably heard this, but like, I just don't feel like the punishment fit the crime. I feel like you really got the short end of the stick. And maybe that's just because I'm Team Travis, but like, it was just kind of heartbreaking to me, the consequences that you ended up experiencing. Yeah, you made some bad choices. Of course you did. We all do. But it just didn't really feel like the punishment met the crime, in my opinion.
Well, thank you for saying that. I think, to be honest, what happened with me was there was a DA that worked my case that was trying to make a name for himself as well. And prosecuting a former law enforcement officer and prosecuting hard, on top of like with the painting that exaggerated $120,000.
That blew my mind. That is like a lifetime, like a movie. Like you could have a screenplay. Like, that's a legit crazy story.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how much we want to get into that, but it was just with that being thrown out there, and the first thing people saw was that headline, former cop steals $120,000 painting. And after that, the story just kind of wrote itself for the media. And I never had a chance to say, well, wait a second, they were throwing this thing away. Like, my mom was an art teacher for 20 plus years. I was attracted to it because of the pretty frame, and I was just going to repurpose it. Like, I don't know. It was very hard. And then to be facing up to 21 years for that, I couldn't roll the dice on it. I had to take the plea. So I ended up with the felony and the 4 years probation.
Yeah.
Yo.
Good has come from it, right?
So, for sure.
We don't regret the past, nor do we wish to shut the door on it. So good has come from the situation, and you've now experienced things that will make you uniquely positioned to help the people you once were. So are you far enough along after the fact that you can look at it more like lemonade than lemons?
Oh, yes, hands down. So, I mean, basically, like, I recap it for people just because other people find it interesting and it is part of my story. But ultimately, like, at this point in time, I look at every single potential resource I have when I'm working with other people and trying to help them on their journey. So I don't ever want my own shit, my own baggage to get in the way of helping someone else. So even though I may not have had a great experience with law enforcement, I don't want to assume that experience for someone else. I mean, now maybe they can relate and that can be a talking point, but I don't bring my baggage to the table unless someone asks me about it. Is really where
Mhm.
I'm at with it.
Mhm. That makes sense. Talk to me a little bit about what it was like to write your story, write your book out, because we were in a meeting this morning. So the group of sober curators, there's like 38 of us, and we're all over the country, a couple in Canada, a couple in the UK. The foreign ones have accents, so they're adorable. But there are several people in the group that have either written a book or have just finished writing a book, and they're in the editing process. And this morning's theme was a lot of people talking about how like it just rips you open, because it really is a way to really walk through and confront all the feelings around all the things that happened. So what was that like for you?
Man, oh, so it was cathartic, but it was also there were it uncovered some wounds that I didn't necessarily know I had, so to say. And I would say one of the hardest things to write about was karma passing. It
Mm,
wasn't about my own trauma, it wasn't about the TBI, it wasn't about any of that. It was about losing the one thing that I had relied on for so long, and the one, like, I mean, she was family, she was everything to me. So it was the one thing that really held me together when I couldn't hold on myself.
mhm,
And when I had to face that and try to put that on paper, I broke. It
mhm,
was 2 days of me sobbing, just a mess, trying to write a sentence or two that was coherent, and nothing really seemed to stack up. So when I
mhm,
wrote that chapter, I just was real about it, and I said, "Look, I've sat with this pain, and I don't know how to write it, but I'm gonna do the best I can." And I think people really related to that because with losing a pet that becomes a family member, that becomes a lot of people's stability, it's such a difficult experience, and it hits everyone slightly different depending on the relationship they had. So it's it's been that was ultimately the hardest part of the book for me to really sink my teeth into and really kind of try to put something out there that I felt the reader could still relate with, but I wasn't shying away from.
That was actually a really hard part for me to read. I've lost 2 pets so far in recovery. The first one, Cooper, may he rest in peace. He was 4 years old. It was completely unexpected, and it came at the end of, like, several months of, like, everything that could have possibly gone wrong, going wrong. I had emergency heart surgery. My son got diagnosed with Crohn's disease and had to drop out of college. He was just starting. He had to have surgery. I tripped and fell and got a concussion. And then he gets home from the hospital, and a day later our dog dies. The primal shriek that came out of me when I got off the phone with the vet, knowing that they weren't going to be able to save him. I don't know that I've ever broken open like that before. Um, and it was surprising to me because I had pets as a kid, but it wasn't. My relationship with animals has completely changed in my recovery. It's not, and maybe when I was a kid, I was just, I don't know. I just But I mean, that was such a pivotal moment to me. And then the things that happened like right after that, like all, I mean, it was so pivotal. It was so heart-wrenching. So when I was reading your story, I was like, I don't, like I had to put it down for a minute. Like I was just like, oh, this is so hard because I understand that heartbreak that if you haven't been through it, I don't know how you describe it to someone. Tamar, what about you?
I have not gone through the loss of a pet, but we have 3 dogs now, and I can see how it affects people, right? And especially the book writing. I've written a few books now, and going through that, like Alysse talked about earlier, and Travis, you mentioned this stuff coming up, right? And how it's I found it really fascinating being able to be present and actually sitting through the waves of emotions that came up and what actually struck me, right? And there was a lot of things in my sobriety that actually hit me harder writing the book than back in my addiction, which I found really interesting. I mean, I went and did a lot of therapy around all that stuff after the fact, because like you said, Travis, you forget about it. But I
Yeah.
mean, animals are I mean, I have 3 now, and I can't imagine them not being here, even though they drive you crazy, but they do have that calm about them.
It's that unconditional love.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't see that, especially very much, it's sad, but you don't see that human to human. And when you get that through a relationship, especially when you grow through that relationship and you get, in my case, get sober for that relationship, and continue to see, like, because Karma was a rescue, so I saw her thrive as I was crashing and burning. And I'm like, look, if she can come back from what she came back from, there's no reason I can't. So basically, I looked at almost to her as a guide to say, okay, this dog has suffered some tragedies I don't even know about, and yet she's still willing to trust me, of all people. And it was amazing to have that as a framework to build off of. And then when I didn't have that anymore, I mean, thank goodness that I had my now wife at the time, because I don't know exactly how I would have responded. I ended up getting hospitalized shortly after Karma did pass away, because I really wasn't taking care of the basic needs that I needed to, because I was just grieving so hard. And it took me to go to the hospital and basically have them say, okay, we're gonna do a reset. We're gonna get you back on some medication and get you some sleep and do just the basic life things for a couple of days to really be able to put one foot in front of the other and start moving forward.
Well, and I really, when you talked about the different parts in the book where you were separated from Karma for incarceration or having to be separated, I think about my dog Bella, and like when I leave the house, whether it's to go to the grocery store for 10 minutes or I'm gone for the day, like she goes to the couch at the front window and she pretty much doesn't move until I get home, just waiting. And I know that because the second I come in the door, she greets me and then she beelines out the back doggy door to go to the bathroom because she's been holding it all day, or she beelines it for her water bowl because she's like got to lap it up because she's so dehydrated. And it's just that like they know when their person is gone, and then that they know that their person is gone. It's like, and I just can't, sometimes I'm like, I can't get home fast enough to her sometimes.
Exactly. No, I totally get that and can relate to that as well. I mean, that just makes sense to me. Like, that's what I saw with Karma. That's the relationship we had. And what worried me when I was incarcerated or when I had to spend time away from her was, I'm like, I wasn't as worried about myself, but I was worried, like, how is she responding? How is she doing? And it's like, I got through some of the days where there were some tough days in jail, especially being former law enforcement, worrying about, is someone going to find that out? How is this going to go? But like, I got through some days because, even though like I might have been in some kind of peril, I was more concerned about karma. I'm like, is she eating? Like, and I didn't want to call my mom like 3, 4 times a day to check on my dog, but like part of me really did. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, man, yeah. So I totally get it, and I totally get wanting to go home sooner sometimes just to see the pet and interface. I'm with you on that.
Well, because they're like a shadow. They're like they are an extension. They are literally like a shadow. And we lost our little Roxy about 6 months ago, and she was with us for 9 years. And it happened really fast. It was like she got diagnosed with spinal disease, and it just went down really, really, really fast. And we couldn't, they were recommending a lot of different things to, like, keep her in a crate for 90 days and see if she can heal up. But she was so confused while she was in the crate. And they were like, as long as she never jumps again, like if she can heal, if she never jumps again. I'm like, never jumps again. That's all the dog does. Like, and so my son and I had to make the tough call of just like, we want to remember her in a certain way, and we don't want her to be confused in the end. And but it's horrific because it's like, I physically feel like I miss her soul. And I don't know that I was definitely not aware of those kinds of feelings or the depth of that kind of love and attachment before getting sober. I just wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. Are we capable of that kind of attachment if we're not in sobriety?
I don't think so.
I don't either, to be real with you, because
Yeah.
I can say the same thing. I've never experienced it. And having talked to so many people after writing this book, like, I've heard that so many times that people just say, look, I didn't have these kind of attachments until I was in sobriety. And I mean, that can be one of those dual swords as a beauty and a curse, I think, because it's so beautiful while it's there, but when it leaves you, it's like, okay, how do we move forward now, and what does that look like? And I mean, as long as we do it and stay sober, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to it.
Yeah. I can also see why it can also be a time where people pick back up again,
Oh, yeah.
because the grief is so intense. And, as addicts, that's the one thing we don't want, is we don't want to feel anything. And so I'm thankful that hasn't happened, but I can understand why it does, because the pain can get that hard and that heavy. But I also feel like the other side of that coin is, if you can feel that kind of pain, that shows you how much love you're also capable of giving and having. Because you can't have one without the other. So it's not, and I just had to keep reframing it that way. It's like the loss is so extreme because the love was so fierce.
That's awesome. And I think that's a great way. I mean, for me, it came in the form of a memorial tattoo. Like, I sat down, and I had this big, burly, rugged dude, and I'm like, man, I'm probably going to cry today. And I just told him that. I'm like, full disclosure, I'm like, I'm getting this ink for my dog that passed, and she was my ride or die. And he's like, all right, man, well, if you're going to cry, we're going to cry together. And I was like, oh, shit. So here's me and this big old veteran, and we're having the sob fest. And there's some death metal music going on in the background, and but it was like, all right, it was what it was, and it was a great moment. And like you said, I think if we do reframe it and we can focus on the beautiful memories, I mean, because we all have those too, the ones that we can hold on to. And even if it comes in the form of a picture, a tattoo, whatever it may be, I think that shit is the most magnificent stuff that we have. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, all right, like, I look to those moments and I'm like, yeah, we had something great. And that's amazing.
Yeah, because if given the choice to get rid of the pain but to not have the memories, would you give up the memories? No, of course not. my son and I are actually going to get paw print tattoos next week, I think. And you know what's interesting about tattoos is I find I actually, although I've gotten them at all different times of my life, I find that I like to get them when I'm like at my worst or hurting the hardest or grieving the most, because it's like I like putting pain on top of pain, I guess, as a distraction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does to me. Yeah,
Mhm.
I get it. I get that too. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So then when I see people that are covered in ink, I'm like, oh, you've been through some stuff, right? Because that's how I look at it. Doesn't mean they have, although most people have, but I just look at that as like, yeah, you're seeking pain for a reason. And usually, sometimes pain covers up pain. I don't know if that makes sense, right? I think it does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This just took a dark turn.
It does. Although Alysse and I, the first time we actually met in person,
Mm-hmm.
we got matching tattoos. So Wonder Woman.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So why Wonder Woman?
Isn't it obvious?
We didn't put a lot of thought into it, Travis. We were rolling down to Portland together. It was the first time meeting in real life. We had obviously hung out on Zoom several times. And I was like, we were just kind of like both talking like, what's the craziest stuff we can do in the next 24 hours to like say that the first day that we met, we did all these crazy things, because it'll make for a good story. And we were like, tattoos and voodoo donuts.
Yeah,
So
we love stories.
So since you're from, the land of the cows, you probably are not familiar with voodoo donuts, but here in Oregon and Washington, there's this donut shop called Voodoo Donuts, and they're open 24 hours, and they make insane donuts, insane flavors, insane names. They've got a whole vibe to them. And so, yeah, we went and got super sugared up and then tatted up. That was our
There
day.
you go.
Yep.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm curious, and I know Tamar's curious, if Netflix was to call you and say, Travis, we're making My Life with Karma a miniseries, who would play you and who would play Karma?
Okay, so let's do Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
Exactly. I love that dude's vibe. And I could totally see that.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yep.
In terms of Karma, jeez, like, are we talking voice actor or
Well,
like?
would you find like that? Would you want a dog that looked as closely to Karma as possible?
I think I'm.
Or would that
probably
be
not.
hard?
Yeah, because I think part of me would just instantly be making comparisons.
Sure.
So, I mean, I would try to keep it a bully breed. A lot of
wouldn't
people
like go pick a Chihuahua.
No. No, funny story. Right now, we have a Pomsky at home with our German Shepherd. And so I went from having this dog that got mistaken as a pitty all the time. People were afraid of her, to now I have a Pomsky, and no one's afraid of him. So I would, like I said, I would do a bully breed, maybe like a Rottweiler, because even though Karma was a boxer, she had a super chill personality. And like a lot of boxers are a little more strung out, a little more high energy. So I don't think they'd really match her vibe. So I'd say probably a Roddy of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move into what we call our Sober Shots segment, where we just hit you with some rapid fire questions. It could get weird, Travis, but don't worry. It's just going to go fast, and you're going to blink it. It's going to be over. So what is your sober drink of choice?
Monster Nitro Super Dry.
Whoa, you're going hardcore. And how many of those bad boys can you throw down in a day?
I limit myself to one in the morning.
Good restraint.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But with the 2.5-year-old, dude, it's got to be done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, I had a kid really young, so I was able to keep up. I would not be able to do it now. Man, they have so much energy, those little ones. So much energy. What is your sober superpower? Like when you wake up at dawn and you're ready to conquer the world, like what is the superpower that you know that you can turn to when the shit goes sideways?
Patience, for sure. Mm-hmm. And once again, that's a lesson that parenting has taught me. Because dude, I used to be that quick fix, want it now, like get very frustrated, like driving, like a lot of shit used to just frustrate me. And now it's like I look at things completely different because I don't see the point of expending so much energy on shit I can't control. So if it's outside of my control, I try to just kick back, look at what I can do, how I can help, or how I can change the situation. But I try to be patient with it.
Cool. Tamar, do you want to ask a couple shots?
Yeah. What is your favorite sober actor?
Favorite sober actor? I mentioned McConaughey, but probably Ben Affleck. So
yeah.
I know he struggled obviously at times, but I just watched The Accountant 2 in theater, and I dug that performance. I thought he did a really excellent job portraying the character he did. So I'll go Affleck.
All right.
I like it. And I'll ask one question just because I'm really curious of what the answer is, because I know that there's so much to living a sober life. But if you could pick one moment just that you're going to talk about today, obviously lots of moments in your sobriety, what is like the highlight today, as of today, of your sober life?
Meeting my wife, for sure.
Aww.
Yes.
Yeah. She actually talked a little bit of shit to me the first time she met me. It was in the gym, and she was a personal trainer, and I was still playing with heavy weights at the time, and I had some chains on top of the weights that I was putting on the bar. And she said, she came over, didn't know me at all, and she's like, "Oh, you're trying to get big playing with chains." I'm like, okay. So this little girl comes over, just right away humbles me, and I had to learn more. Like, I was intrigued. So yeah, that would be it.
I love your wife.
Oh, she's amazing.
That's a solid answer.
That's incredible.
You're having a sober snack attack. Maybe you're about to Netflix and chill. What are you snacking on?
Okay, so I don't know if you have these in Seattle, but Culver's, like it's a chain restaurant. They have cheese curds. So I'd run to Culver's, get some fried cheese curds, and crush those with some marinara for sure.
That sounds pretty good. I get down some cheese curds right now, as a matter of fact. That's the perfect post-concert night, not hungover, but kind of emotionally hungover snack. That sounds good.
If you come up to Canada, you can have some poutine.
Ooh. See,
I've heard call it in Canada? Poutine?
Poutine. Yes.
What goes into poutine? I've had it. I'm just not sure.
French fries, cheese curds. A lot of people just put matzah or whatever, and then gravy on top.
Is there little bacon bits in it sometimes? No?
Specialty poutine places. We have a couple in Vancouver that they have 30 something different types of poutine, and it gets pretty crazy. But it's definitely, if you're worried about a heart attack, not the place to go. Not the place to go.
Well, Travis, do you have any like upcoming projects that you can? You started a new job recently, so you're excited about that. Do you have any other new things that you have coming up?
All right, so I am working on a second book. However, it's one of those things where I need more life experience between my life with karma. So I have a working title, and I've got a few chapters down. I'm gonna call it. I'll drop it here. This is the first time anyone's hearing it. So exactly. So our German Shepherd and my support animal, his name's Titan. So it's gonna be Times with Titan. So we've got My Life with Karma, and then it's gonna be Times with Titan will be the second book.
Have you ever thought about making a kids book about karma or a kids book about Titan?
Dude. So my wife says the same thing. I think if I were going to do it and do it right, I think we need her voice for it, because I'm more raw. Like you saw with my book, I'm very raw, very transparent style.
You are.
I don't know how well that will resonate with kiddos. So I think if I could get her to basically write most of it, and I'll just put the cherry on top. A kid's book could definitely be in the future. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what fun tricks is your 2-year-old doing right now?
Oh my gosh. So, well, he's working on potty training.
Oh, that's a big one.
So the biggest thing recently has been other things that flush down the toilet. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, I had to pull our downstairs toilet and do all that fun stuff. And I found Duplo Man wrapped in toilet paper with a few other miscellaneous toys that went down the toilet. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
All right, so he's curious, very curious.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
learning.
The thing I love about kids is when they do something and they think they're funny, especially when they're that little. It is like it's the best. It's the best. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys a story.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Because like my son is 28 and he's not gonna appreciate this story, but still
We're all here for it.
Still my story to tell. So he wasn't little. He was actually 9. So he was 9 when I got sober. And we had recently moved from a small town up to the big city. And up until that point, we had lived in the small town. He was over at my parents' house all the time. So it was really tight with my parents. And so we were about 2 hours apart. And in the middle was this city, Tacoma. And I was going to meet my mom there and she was going to take him for the weekend. And there was this one part of the highway where there's this big sign for the restaurant Hooters. Do you have Hooters in your state?
We do, yes.
Okay. All right. So I don't have to explain to you what Hooters are. Great. So we're driving and he's, in the back seat because he's still too little to be in the front seat. And here's the key part of the story. Up until we moved, he'd gone to a private Christian school where my mom was a teacher, right? So now he's going to a public school and he's riding the public bus. These are new big things for him, right? And I was newly sober. So a lot of change for him, So we're driving to go meet my mom. And he's in the back seat, and all of a sudden we're passing the Hooters billboard along the side of the freeway. And here comes this little voice out of the back of the car, and he's like, "Hey, Mom, what's Hooters?" And I was like, oh. And I was trying to think about what I was going to say, right? And he kept going. He was like, "Is it like a restaurant?" And I was like, "Yeah, yep, it's a restaurant. It's definitely a restaurant." And I can see in the rearview mirror, he looked a little perplexed. He was like, he wasn't quite buying it. And I was like, did you have some questions about the restaurant? And he was like, well, I just really thought it was something else. And I was like, oh, here we go. Right. And I was like, buddy, what'd you think it was? And he was like, well, I thought it was like a Home Depot. And I was like, Home Depot? And I'm like, Home Depot colors were orange and white. Hooters colors were orange and white. I'm in marketing and marketing and advertising. So I obviously went the brand route and I was trying to like make a connection and I was very confused. And I was like, why'd you think it was like a Home Depot? He goes, well, there's this big kid. He rides in the back of the bus. And just yesterday, he said that every time he goes to Hooters, he gets wood. So I just figured it must be like a Home Depot.
Man.
Out of the mouth of babes.
Never gets old. Never gets old.
Never gets old. I love that story. He does not. Yeah. Well, Travis, thank you for being here and for showing up and showing us that healing isn't just possible. It's powerful, it's funny, and it's deeply human. And it is all 4 paws on the floor worth it. Where can our many, many, many listeners find you?
Easiest place to find me is you can connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn. In terms of my book, Amazon is the best avenue. It's also the least expensive. So that works out well for people. Aside from that, yeah, you can also hit me up at Kaya Clinic. That's another route if you're looking for sober resources, things like that. I'm always happy to share, pick my brain. I love it. So yeah, let's connect.
love that. We will put the links for that in the show notes and in the article that goes on the site, along with a link to your book. We also have the book review up on the library connected to the Amazon to purchase. And we'd love to have you back, Travis, and have maybe like a sober dads episode. We'll have some of the other sober curators that are dads actually come and be on a panel with you, since as a single mom, I can kind of say that I do both roles, but not really. But it'd be awesome to have you back. And we definitely want to keep posted on when you've got the new book, when you get a little bit more life experience and the new book comes out, for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you both for having me on. And I wanted to say too, thank you for the review. It almost brought me to tears, definitely brought my wife to tears, because it truly showed like you get it. And that was like, that's what I said. As soon as I read through it, I'm like, yeah, she gets it. And this is why I wrote the book, is to make these kind of connections and to have other people say, okay, if this guy can do it, shit, why don't I give it a try? And I love that you understand where I was coming from when I wrote that book. So thank you again.
Yeah. It really tugged at my heartstrings. And I was just really, what hurt me the most was the consequences you ended up experiencing for, like I said before, like I was like, it just made me, I was upset. I was hurt. I just was like, it's not fair. And like a lot of life isn't fair. And that's a really good lesson. It also, I've been working on a book of my own. And so when I read other people's stories, it continues to motivate me to like sit down and do the hard work and take pen to paper. Sometimes I just sit here and write nothing. Sometimes a lot falls out. Who knows if it'll ever see the light of day? A lot of people talk about writing books, but few people actually get it over the finish line. And so props to you for getting it over the finish line and continuing to do the hard work. Because that is where recovery happens, is people reading other people's stories, hearing other people's stories, and feeling that connection and knowing that they're not alone. That is what binds this community together. And we need all the different walks of life and all the different voices and all the different experiences, so that when anybody gets here, they can find themselves in this community. And so I just really appreciate you for doing that and for being a man in the space. Like that is also, there's not as many of you out there recovering out loud as there are females. And so I think it's particularly important to show men that it's okay to be so vulnerable, because that, historically has not been like a popular thing that people would do. And so that was not lost on me at all. And I really, I'm sorry it took me so long to get to the book, but man, when I got to it, I loved every single page. I thought it was really great.
Well, thank you. If I can say one last thing, like you said about the vulnerability piece, like machismo, that kind of bullshit kept me stuck. That kept me using, because I looked at it like I have the solutions. It's all within me. I was very self-centered, very self-centric. What I found was vulnerability is a natural part of what we are. We need that connection to thrive. And it's just one of those things that I was missing for so long, and I didn't know I was missing it until I actually had authentic connection with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And now I crave it. So I encourage guys out there, females out there, anyone out there, man, if you're shying away from something because you don't want to be seen as a certain way, maybe try to flip the script and just try something that may be a little uncomfortable, a little different, because the outcomes can definitely be worth it. So.
All right. Well, Tamar loves it when I wrap the show by grabbing one of my random tchotchkes that are around me. If you haven't noticed, Travis, I'm a little bit of a curator, also maybe hoarder, but curator is what we're going to say today. And I never pre-pick it out. I just kind of look around and grab something. And I think this will be on brand for today.
Travis, her home is like a gift shop.
Every room.
Really?
It's
fascinating.
Museum. It's like museum.
It is a
meets gift
museum.
shop.
It is. It's got taste. Yeah.
but nothing of value. So there's no reason for anyone to come rob me because there's literally nothing of value here, to be clear. Just about a lot of weird stuff that I either make or thrift or whatever. But speaking of Wonder Woman and speaking of making things, I would like to show you my handmade Wonder Woman piggy bank. I painted her at one of those ceramic paint bar places that you see, I guess, that they have at malls or whatever. And I put a little A on her forehead, and she just sits here on my desk. There's no money in her because the bottom doesn't open up. And so if I put money in her, then I would have to break her to get it out. And I just don't, nobody wants to break Wonder Woman. Like, that wouldn't be a good idea. But yeah, so I've had her for, I don't even know how long, but a long time, like at least a decade. So she's just followed around to all my different desks. So, and she actually holds, this will be a twofer today. Get excited. She holds this. Have you ever seen these? These are, I can't do it because of my headphones and my beanie, but this is one of those head scratcher, things that's supposed to relax you when you get stressed. So this actually sits, I guess I should demonstrate for all my Tchotchke enthusiasts. It just kind of sits right there. It's my scratch head holder more than it is a piggy bank. And that's the Tchotchke of the week. You're welcome for that.
Beautiful.
Anyway, that is all the time we have. And as we like to say at the Sober Curator, getting sober matters. Staying sober matters more. Thanks for tuning in. This is Alysse Bryson. And until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep it sober. Thanks for tuning in because, let's be real, we're way more fun than your ex's drunk texts.
If you laughed, learned, or just need more of our voices in your life, honestly, I mean, who wouldn't? Hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and send this episode to your sober or your I swear I'm only drinking on the weekends besties.
And if you have a story, feedback, or hey, maybe you just want to slide into our DMs like it's 2012, well, we're here for it. Find more curated magic at thesobercurator.com. And remember, getting sober matters, staying sober matters more. Until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep it sober.